Hello everyone, this is Antinatalism, the consent argument, or why you choose the wrong which can be undone. Once there were two twins, born on the same day, from the same genes, and much more they shared than any other brothers they came to know. But in one thing they became bitter enemies. One became an antinatalist, the other a natalist. The argument. No one would question that consent is important in sex and procreation. But this consent only refers to the contributors, the future parents, and neglects the future child. So there is the argument that the future child could be wronged. There are two potential wrongs. It would be wrong for the dissenter to life to be born. It would be wrong for the consenter to life to not be born. There are two potential wrongs, but only one of which can be undone. When confronted with the choice between two wrongs, we should choose the one which can be undone. If you agree that the consent argument has merits, then given the future parent's consent, natalism is to be preferred over antinatalism. Criticism. Critics of the consent argument may point to general weaknesses of the principle. We only suggest the principle if a single person is the target of an action, if she is able to state her consent or dissent. Critics may point out that the creation of a fetus has no demonstrable forcing effect on any consciousness. See the twin example in the introduction. They may further note that the dissent later given is not a reaction to birth but to the conditions of life and should be dealt with under conditional antinatalism. General observations. Even antinatalism follows the principle that there is no wrong in exposing people to ideas without their consent. It is rather believed that anyone can form an independent opinion. But if forming an opinion is okay with antinatalism, then life is just an opportunity to form an opinion about life, which remains necessarily subjective. Would you feel wronged if an opinion about life was forced on you? And are you ready to act based on your preliminary opinion about life? So far, most antinatalists remain cautious and do not act out their opinion about life. But antinatalism gives them a chance to further their opinion without consequences. So far, they prefer the wrong which can be undone. Conclusion. The consent argument works better for natalism than for antinatalism. General antinatalists therefore have to reject consent as something to be considered, which is highly problematic. Because even when consent is limited in scope, we still have to acknowledge that consent is what makes individual antinatalism, a child-free life, acceptable. But general antinatalism has lost the consent argument. But even when natalism has no reason to argue, general natalism would equally lose the consent argument. Final thought. We all have biases. We just differ in our needs to justify those biases. If natalists felt the need to justify them, antinatalists would have never used the consent argument in the first place. But do we really need to justify our biases? The consent argument presents us with the idea that everyone is an uncompromising judge on his own behalf. But justifications try to replace the individual decisions with other principles. Do I have to bow to another principle, even one which I do not consent to? Justifications do not explain biases. They can at most support a bias if successful, or overrule a bias if failing. But justifications are often only sloppy productions, as can be repeatedly shown. We are in danger to betray our deep-rooted motives for cheap constructions if it suits us. General antinatalism is riddled with cheap constructions to keep the theatre running. The end. I appreciate your comments and future references to these thoughts. I let the text run once more without my voice interfering. Thanks for watching. So we reached again the end, and here I stop the video. Thanks for watching once again.